My wife got back from her so-called business trip and snuggled up to me, but I pulled away. I've been sick as hell a couple of days ago, and I still felt like a ghost. But my own wife didn't even give a damn about my pale face or the mountain of meds clattering on the nightstand. Displeased, shut up her phone to dial up that childhood friend of hers. Hey, where you at? I'm in a crap mood, come cheer me up. That prick on the other end had the balls to chuckle and say, didn't you just get back home? You want to see me again? Now she shot me this dead-eyed look while heading out the door, replying I was this close to sleeping, but I guess I can't do that in my own damn bed tonight. I just sneered and called up my lawyer. Please get those divorce papers ready. Ellen and I have been dating for 4 years and married for 6. Every folks around us knew I worshipped her. Even when she told me she couldn't have kids, I still stayed with her. But as time passed, the way she treated me felt like she was this woman I didn't even recognize. She went from being all clingy to straight up paranoid, believing what she wanted to believe. Whenever we had a little misunderstanding, she'd storm out of the house and run off to that jerk Gareth McKinley. If I lost it and brought up divorce, my wife would get on her knees saying sorry, swearing she just wanted to mess with me and that nothing was happening between her and her friend. Her mom would back her up, saying I should stick it out. It was just my wife's health making her act all messed up. And all her friends, they'd swear she never even went to see Gareth. And like a goddamn fool, I forgave her. That was until a week ago. A buddy recommended me this OBGYN. So I went to see the doctor, feeling like maybe things could turn around for me and my wife. Luckily, the doc said my wife's condition wasn't hopeless. I never cared much about having kids, but I thought, screw it, maybe having a kid would chill her out a bit. On my way back, I stopped by Urban Basket to grab some groceries. It was just getting dark when I stepped out, and damned if I didn't see Ellen's car stopping across the road. My gut told me to take a closer look, and there she was, sitting in the driver's seat. And right there, under the blinding headlights, my wife was kissing some guy torridly, like they were inseparable. The scene struck me like lightning, and the groceries fell out of my grip. Vegetables and fruits rolled out everywhere. When the light turned green, some jerk honked, snapping my wife and her fling out of their little bubble. Ellen rolled down the window, cursing at the car behind them. Gareth, that son of a bitch, just smirked, stroking my wife's hair. They didn't even notice me catching their affair. My wife's car just sped off right past me. I swear it felt like someone kicked my legs out from under me. The night air was cold, and the chill dug right into my bones, making me shudder uncontrollably. I don't remember how I got home, but that night I was burning up with a fever. I would have died if a buddy worried cause he couldn't reach me hadn't come and rushed me to the hospital. Turned out I'd suddenly developed acute pneumonia. When Ellen finally came back, she threw her suitcase down into the room. She smelled of some other dude's cologne. When she slipped under the comforter beside me, she didn't care enough to even notice my pale face or the meds littering the bedside table. I turned my head away from her and said, I'm not feeling well tonight. She got out of bed, looking down at me. Oh yeah, you just can't stand me now, right? Dang, it's not like I'm desperate for you anyway. Then she grabbed her phone and openly called that same damn number. Hey, where you at? I'm in a crap mood. Come cheer me up. I could hear the bastard's damn laugh through the phone. Didn't you just get back home? Want to see me again? Now? You really don't care if your useless husband gets mad? Huh? Ellen looked over at me with a mocking grin and laugh. Well, he's a useless waste of space anyway. Dunno why he's even got the dang nerve to reject me. She said it quiet enough that her other man on the line wouldn't catch it, but loud enough for me to hear every word. What? The bastard asked? Nothing. Just saying I can't even sleep in my own damn bed. Ellen grinned as she hung up and gave me one last look before picking up her suitcase. And then she just walked right out. There was a time I would have chased her. I would have apologized and held her no matter what bullshit she spewed. I would have appeased her with a gentle voice. But this time, when that door slammed shut, I didn't move a muscle. Just lay there in our bed alone. God, I'm so damn fed up with all her bullshits. The next day, for the very first time, Ellen came back early. I was finishing up breakfast at the table when I heard the door, but I didn't bother to lift my head. She stood in front of me like she was expecting something. No breakfast set out for her like I used to do every damn morning. Her face yelled. She was pissed as hell, and then she slammed her phone down on the table. Go ahead, start your crap. Want to fight again? She was bringing up that first time she ditched me to run to Gareth all mad. Back then, I was just as pissed. Didn't call her, didn't text her all night. The next morning, I rolled up to her mom's place with divorce papers in hand. Ellen came rushing back looking white as a sheet and dropped to her knees in front of me, bawling her eyes out. But then Mom's excited voice burst out before Ellen could say a damn word. "Oh, my son. Happy birthday, baby. I meant to call you yesterday, but we were out in the fields all day. You ain't mad, right? Tell me, how did you and Ellen celebrate?" Ellen froze, guilt flashing across her face as she looked at me. Yeah, my wife forgot my birthday, but she sure as hell remembered to go make out with her other man right in front of me. I snatched the phone back and pressed it to my ear, plastering on this big fake grin. Nah, how could I be mad, Mom? You and Dad. You're the only ones who ever cared about me. If anyone's sorry here, it's me, not being the son you deserve all these years. Hearing that, Mom quickly changed the subject, clearly worried I'd get upset. We kept talking. 30 minutes, maybe not once did we bring up my wife's name. By the time I hung up, Ellen's face was all twisted up like she couldn't figure out what to do. Fine. It's your birthday, so I'll let that money slide for now. But it's a loan, you hear me? You're damn lucky to have a generous wife like me. You know that? And about yesterday, well, you know that was your fault. If you just talked to me nicely, I wouldn't have left. I ignored her, just went back to my phone and started chatting with some old buddies. She lingered there like a ghost until she muttered, "Fine, I'll go buy a cake. Make something nice for dinner, all right? I'll make it up for you tonight." I watched until the door clicked shut behind her, and then I opened my chat box with my supervisor. "Hey, Wesley, are you really planning on transferring to the branch? It's your hometown." "Sure, but what about living apart from your wife?" I shot back quickly. "Won't be a problem. She's about to be my ex-wife soon enough." The chat box showed she was typing, untyping, and typing again. Although it took her forever, she still sent a short reply. "All right, with you on the team, I'm sure the branch will make it." I checked the time, set my phone to silent, and crawled back under the covers. I was dead asleep right then. I heard this goddamn noise from the living room. My eyes barely even opened, and my mind barely awake when I felt these hands yanking me out of bed. "It's Ellen. Get your ass up. I invited my friends over for your birthday, and you're here sleeping? Get in the damn kitchen." I dragged myself out to the living room. There were folks jammed in every corner, trashing the place with empty soda cups and pizza boxes. I swear, I had never felt so enraged like this before. I clenched my fists, but eventually kept my cool. I decided to save some face for my wife, who invited them all. "Oh wow, didn't expect all of you to show up. All right then, how about I book us a table at a restaurant?" "Yeah, what?" "Nah, bro, eating out's damn expensive. Besides, Ellen's always bragging about your cooking. Want a taste of that?" Gareth sprang up, that stupid grin plastered on his face like he knew something I didn't. And there's Ellen, frowning and pulling at my arm. "You just sent $2,800 to your brother, and now you want to blow more cash eating out? What, you think we're born rich? Come on, you can cook just fine. I even got all you need. Just make something quick, Ellen." Buying groceries. That was enough to make my stomach turn, so I bolted to the kitchen and threw the door open. Eels, lobsters, frogs. Jesus Christ. I don't even know how the hell a couple of them got behind the damn stove. I took a deep breath and quickly shut the door. I knew it'd be like this. She can't even mop the floor right ever since we got married, and she thinks she can damn buy groceries. And then there was Gareth, standing right behind me. In a voice that only the two of us could hear, he arrogantly said, "Poor thing, cooking for all these folks on your day. Damn. Did you know, for my birthday, Ellen actually rented out a suite at the King's Bay for 3 good days? Guess you're not the favorite, huh, Wesley?" Before I could lift my fist, Ellen stepped up right behind him. "What are you two gossiping about? Hey babe, why aren't you cooking yet? My friends are starving." I wanted to tell her to shove her friends right out the damn door, but then I thought of that bastard's arrogant face last week. "We're missing some spices. I'll run out and grab them real quick." "What? I'll go then. It's getting late. You still got 2 sets of meals to cook." You know, she really thought I'd cook a feast for her dumbass friends and then whip up dinner for us too. I ground my teeth together, and then I just shot back. "What the hell do you even know about kitchen stuff? I'll be back in a flash." Finally. That shut her up. I'll go with you. Bro, Gareth really meant to tag along. I didn't say no, of course, but I made sure my fingers secretly pressed that recorder in my coat pocket. Ellen trailed us to the door, throwing these worried glances at me, then at Gareth. Her lips moved slightly. Gareth chuckled and gave her a little shove back. Chill, Ellen. Who's being all clingy now? Who was he even calling clingy? Gareth then closed the door. As we hit the stairs, the bastard suddenly stuck out his arm right in my face. That morning, Ellen finally noticed that something was different about me. This wasn't like the other times when I'd threatened to leave but ended up backing down, apologizing, or trying to make peace. No, this time there was no going back. She walked into the kitchen, silently watching me, waiting for me to say something first. I just sat there, eyes fixed on my coffee, feeling her stare. She expected me to start an argument, to give her the opening she always used to twist things around. But I remained still, as if surrounded by a glass wall that kept her words and venom away. After a prolonged silence, Ellen finally spoke, her voice sharp with impatience. So, you're just gonna sit there? No words? You really think this little act of yours is going to scare me? I took a deep breath, still focused on my coffee, feeling the irritation growing in her tone. It wasn't just impatience. It was discomfort, as if my silence was getting under her skin, throwing her off the control she thought she had over me. Silence was my answer, and it filled the room, stretching into every corner of the kitchen where, for years, I had made her breakfast as a sign of my love. Now, each small act like that felt like a bitter reminder of all I'd sacrificed for someone who clearly didn't value any of it. She kept staring at me, probably waiting for me to look up to give her some predictable response she could manipulate. But I stayed motionless, like a wall of stone, and I could see it was throwing her off. You know, Wesley, this silent treatment is pathetic, she said, voice dripping with contempt. You think you can scare me with this silent act? I know exactly what you're trying to do. For the first time, I felt a smile creeping onto my face. It wasn't the usual smile she associated with my kind, apologetic side. No, this was a cold, ironic smile, one that carried the weight of all the times I'd been stupid enough to fall for her games. I looked up, finally meeting her gaze, and for the first time, I saw a flicker of fear in her eyes. She hadn't expected this from me. That fear disappeared quickly, though, as she straightened her shoulders, determined to hold her ground. Don't worry, Ellen, I replied calmly. This time, there won't be any fights or drama. I just want peace. That's what I'm after now. I saw her expression shift, and for a moment, something that resembled concern crossed her face. Maybe for the first time, she understood that she was losing the control she thought she'd always had over me. The truth was, she'd lost that control the moment I saw her with Gareth, indifferent and guilt-free, right in that parking lot. She tried to mask her insecurity with a sarcastic laugh, as if my behavior didn't bother her. Peace, she said, voice dripping with mockery. Good luck finding that without me. You won't last a month on your own, Wesley. I was the only person who ever truly cared about you. It was the first time I truly laughed in a long time. Care about me? I asked, feeling the laughter bubble up. You think sneaking off to meet another man while your husband's in the hospital is caring? Or maybe caring is dragging me through the mud in front of your friends, making me cook while you entertain them. She narrowed her eyes, visibly annoyed, but I could see that my calmness was rattling her. Before, I would have tried to ease the tension. Now, I wanted her to feel it, to understand that I was done. Go on and think you're still in control, Ellen. Laugh it up if you want, but I'm already out of this marriage. At least in here, I pointed to my head, and soon it'll be official. She stared at me for a long moment before opening her mouth to retort, but the doorbell interrupted us. I knew who it was. The lawyer, here with the first set of divorce papers, ready for me to sign. Ellen's eyes darted to the door, and I saw a hint of panic in her face, like she was beginning to realize that this wasn't just an empty threat. I stood up, calmly walking to the door, opening it for the lawyer, who greeted me with a serious nod. Ellen, for the first time in years, looked genuinely lost, as if she had no idea what to say or do. Please, Ellen, have a seat, I said, pulling a chair out for her. She hesitated but eventually sat down. With the papers in front of me, I took a deep breath. "This is just the beginning, Ellen," I said calmly. "I want a divorce, and I'm moving on. I'm done giving chances to someone who only wants to see me broken. From now on, I'm taking care of myself." She stayed silent for a moment, but then her expression hardened. "Oh, really? You think you could just get rid of me that easily? You don't even know what I'm capable of?" Her threat didn't surprise me. I knew Ellen would fight, knew she'd try to make the divorce as painful as possible. But I was ready. Years of manipulation and deceit had taught me never to underestimate her. I knew she'd likely go after everything she could, from property to any dignity I had left. But I was prepared to face whatever came my way to be rid of her. As she got up to leave, she gave me one last hateful look. "This isn't over, Wesley," she said, like she was warning me about a storm on the horizon. "Yeah, Ellen," I replied with a cold smile. "It's not over, but I walked out of this war a long time ago." That last argument with Ellen, her arrogant stance, as if she'd always come out on top, left a clear impression on me. I needed to put an end to this. And it wasn't just a paper-thin end with a divorce. I wanted to make it clear to her and everyone around us who she really was. I knew that trying for one final heart-to-heart talk with her wouldn't work. No, this required something she wouldn't expect, something that would make her feel a bit of what I'd been through. And with that, I decided on my approach. My first decision was simple. I stopped covering up her lies. No more playing the loyal, quiet husband while she used Gareth as some close friend she was just helping out. The first chance came when my mother casually asked why Ellen hadn't joined us for a family lunch. In the past, I would have made up an excuse, saying she was busy with work or some engagement. But this time, I was direct. "To be honest, Mom, Ellen has other plans. With her friend Gareth, who she's been meeting up with over the weekends," I replied without holding back. Silence fell over the table. My dad stopped eating. My mom looked at me wide-eyed, and my brother just stared, waiting for more. I laid it all out, without drama, explaining everything I had found out and how I'd been holding on to it in silence for years, trying to salvage a marriage that, to her, was just a front. I wasn't looking for sympathy or support, but simply putting an end to the image of us as the perfect couple. The news spread faster than I'd anticipated. My mom, who'd always defended Ellen, was deeply disappointed, and soon mutual friends started reaching out, some to offer support, others to understand what had happened. No one knew about Gareth until now, and with everyone finally aware of the other side, Ellen started feeling the impact. At family gatherings, she was met with cold stares, and among friends, people no longer held her in the same regard. But I didn't stop there. Ellen was extremely concerned with how people saw her, especially at work, where she loved to present herself as the dedicated wife and reliable professional. I knew the truth about our divorce would ruin that image. So, I decided to have a straightforward talk with her boss, a conservative man, a close family friend, and someone who'd always respected me. I met him at a coffee shop and got straight to the point. "I know this conversation might feel out of place, but you deserve to know why Ellen and I are divorcing." He listened without interrupting, his face shifting from disbelief to disappointment. I didn't have to say much, just mentioned that Ellen had been spending her weekends with a friend and that it had been happening for some time. He thanked me, and though he didn't say anything further, I saw in his eyes that he'd take it seriously. I knew it wouldn't be long before he had a conversation with her. For Ellen, the fallout came swiftly. A week later, she stormed into the house, furious, accusing me of ruining her life. I simply stayed silent as she poured out the anger that, deep down, was a reflection of her own actions. "You told everyone, didn't you? Even my boss? Now he's looking at me like I'm irresponsible, and it's all because of you," she hissed, voice loaded with rage. I took a deep breath, staying calm, and finally replied, "Ellen, you did this to yourself. I just let people see who you really are. Nobody would judge you if you'd been honest with me, but you chose to betray my trust. And now that everyone knows, you want to blame someone? Blame yourself." She stormed out, slamming the door, and I didn't stop her. I knew that every slammed door was another link breaking between us, and for the first time, I was more than okay with that. Ellen tried to hold on to her social standing, but as days passed, it became clear she was losing her grip. At gatherings and family events, she became the target of whispers and side glances. Many of our mutual friends started avoiding her, while others, who knew what I'd been through, showed me their support. Even her mother, who used to dismiss the issues, now avoided talking to me out of embarrassment. Within weeks, Ellen was isolated, without the network she'd always used to mask her actions. The final blow came when she tried to confront me in public at a company event where all our friends were present. It was the annual firm gathering, and many friends of hers, who now knew everything, were also there. Ellen approached me, probably hoping to intimidate or paint me as the bad guy, but I was prepared. "So, that's it? You destroy my life. And now you're here playing the saint," she said, her voice controlled, but her face flushed with anger. I kept my tone firm but calm, ensuring everyone nearby could hear. "I only told the truth, Ellen. I thought everyone here deserved to know who they were dealing with. Maybe you should start dealing with the consequences of your own choices." She tried to respond, but before she could get a word out, one of her colleagues, a friend of mine, stepped up and, unafraid to share his opinion, said loudly, "Ellen, I used to admire you, but now I see Wesley was right to move on. It's sad you played with his feelings." She left visibly shaken, and I knew that this time she wouldn't be able to cover up her lies or change the narrative. I was honest, and in the end, everyone around us could see the real Ellen. When the event ended, I felt an enormous weight lifted off my shoulders. The divorce process continued, and Ellen tried to contest some of the assets, but without her social backing and with her image damaged, her options were limited. In the end, my revenge was simple: exposing the truth, raw and unfiltered. And somehow, that turned out to be the most devastating blow for someone who always lived by appearances. I left the event feeling lighter, knowing that this time, it was a true ending. Now, after all this time since the divorce, I can finally look back with a sense of peace I never thought I'd find. It was a long, painful process, but each small victory along the way reassured me that walking away from that relationship was the best decision I could have made. I remember how I felt waking up in that empty house in those first days after the separation. It was strange, sometimes even frightening, but over time, that loneliness transformed into freedom. I rediscovered the value of taking care of myself, doing what made me happy without the constant weight of distrust and frustration that Ellen had brought into my life. At first, everything around me reminded me of our former life. People whispered, friends and family would ask how I was dealing with everything, but gradually, I let go of the need to explain what had happened. Ellen, on the other hand, faced the harsher consequences. I'd hear from mutual friends that she was trying to rebuild her life, but people no longer saw her as that perfect woman she'd always portrayed. Her image was tarnished, and she couldn't hide behind the devoted wife mask anymore. Without the respect she once demanded, Ellen started to isolate herself. No one wanted to be associated with someone who had deceived and manipulated so openly. That, for her, was a punishment much greater than anything I could have imagined. Life went on, and after a few months, I met someone new. It wasn't planned at all. Honestly, I was so focused on myself that love was the last thing on my mind. But then I met Julia on a work trip to a city I didn't know. She was unlike anyone I'd ever met. Julia was calm, with a genuine smile and an effortless way about her that made me feel at ease like I hadn't felt in years. She showed me that I didn't have to be so hard on myself, that I could trust and open up without fear. During our first few dates, I shared a bit about what I'd been through, just touching on the surface. Julia listened patiently, without judgment, and more importantly, without making me feel like my past defined me. Over time, I found myself sharing more and more with her, even the parts that made me feel ashamed. She encouraged me to look forward, to think about the plans I wanted to make and the future I could build. Each conversation with her showed me that life could be lighter, that love didn't have to be a constant game of manipulation and sacrifice. Ellen, on the other hand, seemed to spiral downward. I'd heard through mutual friends that she was still with Gareth, but their relationship was far from the fairy tale she'd imagined. Over time, Gareth revealed himself to be the opposite of what she'd hoped for. Selfish and now entirely dependent on her emotionally and financially. I heard rumors that he treated their relationship like a personal victory, parading Ellen around almost like a trophy. Her few remaining friends told me that she'd begun to see Gareth wasn't truly committed, that his interest was just fleeting, and now that they were together, whatever thrill she once felt was gone. One day, I ran into an old mutual friend I hadn't seen in years. We talked about many things, and she eventually brought up how Ellen was doing. She told me that Ellen had tried to return to her old social circle, but people no longer treated her with the same respect. After a few months of rumors and suspicions, she even lost her job. Her reputation had crumbled so much that staying at work became unbearable. It was as if people had finally seen through the perfect facade she used to hide behind. It was clear that this was a consequence Ellen had never imagined she'd face. The silent judgment, the way people distanced themselves from her, and the emptiness of a toxic relationship with Gareth where admiration and interest had long since faded. For someone like Ellen, who depended so much on appearances, living with everyone knowing the truth about who she really was turned out to be the most fitting punishment. With Julia, my life took a direction I hadn't anticipated. After a year together, we decided to move in, creating a home of our own, slowly, without rushing, but with a sincerity I had come to deeply value. Julia showed me that happiness is in the small things. The daily conversations, the carefree laughter, and the mutual trust that doesn't need to be proven constantly. With her, I learned to open up without fear, to love easily, and, most importantly, to value myself. Ellen is now a part of my past, and though resentment followed me for a while, I no longer feel the need to think about her. I heard through acquaintances that she and Gareth had serious financial problems. He continued taking advantage of her until the debt became overwhelming, and she eventually had to sell the apartment they lived in. What she was left with was a tarnished image, a failed relationship, and the weight of choices that, deep down, were always hers. In some way, I found my peace. Today, I'm grateful for what I went through because it led me here to someone who truly understands and accepts me. Ellen, on the other hand, is still trapped in a world of illusions, slowly crumbling. And perhaps that's the truest form of revenge. Knowing I moved on, build a life of substance and fulfillment, while she's left with the life she always wanted, a life of appearances, empty, without anything real.